Here's what's next.
This week, the buzz descends on DragonCon. It's a real scream. We'll get some pointers from PINHEAD and buzz with the creators of the Dragonlance books and games. The Lost World has been found by tourists. Rondo Hatton, the horror film star who did not need makeup. And they killed him off in Star Trek Generations. But Captain Kirk won't stay dead.
There's a reason you Klingons could never kill me.
Prepare. Stand by. The buzz.
Movies. Personalities.
Sci-Fi.
FX.
Behind the scenes.
Cutting edge. Get ready.
Sci-Fi.
Sci-Fi Buzz.
Apollo's getting a kick out of this. Apollo, smile, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you, sir.
She's at DragonCon, Mike Jurek, and all you buzzers are now at DragonCon in Atlanta. This place is jam-packed with authors and artists and a lot of actors, too. They have game tournaments. They even have a beauty pageant for aliens. So we're going to check this all out. Oh, they even have Scream Queens, too. Give them a sample. I could do that. I'm going to learn to do that along with you. But first, a story about a guy who's made a lot of people scream throughout his career, Rondo Hatton.
Stay back.
Today, his movies are largely forgotten. But during the golden era of Universal Pictures horror films, Rondo Hatton was perhaps the most unique of the studio's monster players. While Karloff, Lugosi, and Chaney removed their grease paint and appliances before going home, Rondo couldn't. His gruesome appearance was for real.
Who are you? What do you want?
Stop screaming.
Rondo suffered from a rare disease called acromegaly, which causes monstrous disfigurement of the face and hands. Hatton's acromegaly was triggered by exposure to German poison gas during World War I.
Open up in there! Joe, are you in there?
Yes, Steve, help!
Shut up.
Rondo was discovered by a film crew shooting on location in Florida. He came to Hollywood, where his unusual face helped him land bit parts in scores of movies. Here he appears as a participant in the Ugly Man contest in The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
How do you like his face?
The turning point in Rondo's film career came when he was cast as the Creeper in Universal's Sherlock Holmes picture, The Pearl of Death. The film established the Hatton formula character, a wretched creature of immense strength who becomes the pawn of a villain. Public reaction to this character was good enough that Universal cast Hatton in a series of creeper-type parts, such as the mute servant in The Spider-Woman Strikes Back. Hatton never had a desire to play grotesque monsters, but these roles allowed him to make a living.
Miss Darlett is in, isn't she? Can't you speak? Oh, I'm sorry.
House of Horrors established the Creeper as a genuine monster star and proved that Hatton, in a lead role, could carry a picture. The plot has the Creeper being saved from drowning by an insane artist and then returning the favor by killing off the artist's enemies.
I noticed by this morning's paper that my hated enemy, Mr. Harmon, was murdered last night.
You glad?
Very glad. He deserved to be killed. His death will be welcomed by many artists in New York.
Good. Everybody happy.
The Brute Man turned out to be Rondo's swan song. He plays a character whose tragic life, in many ways, parallels Hatton's. The story concerns a handsome scientist who is scarred in a laboratory explosion and becomes a deformed killer.
It's Hal.
Hal? Yeah, it's been a long time, Cliff. I don't blame you for not recognizing me.
Cliff, they were right. He is the Creeper. He killed those people.
Not long after completing The Brute Man, Hatton suffered a fatal heart attack brought on by his acromegaly. He had just arrived at stardom when his life was cut short. Although quickly forgotten by the public, Rondo Hatton now attracts a growing cult following who enjoy his films on home video. Mike Jarek back in Atlanta at DragonCon. I can't get enough of the Scream Queens, but you know that after 5 years of the show, right? Tiffany Shepis is here. Hi, Tiffany. How are you? And Brinke Stevens, of course. Now, some fans from North Carolina are here at DragonCon, and they want to learn how to become Scream, well, queens and kings. Yeah, so go ahead and give them a sample then.
Yeah, you know. Bravo.
Is the sound man alive? Is the sound man, there's blood dripping from his ears. Okay, Brinke.
Get it deep, deep in your lungs and let it out. It's like,
oh. Okay, North Carolina people, squeeze together, and on 3, give us the scream. 1, 2, 3. Okay, Siskel and Ebert, come on in here.
I'd say A minus.
Yeah,
I liked it. I really, really did like it. They had this, barbed wire type.
When the buzz beams back, vacationing in Jurassic Park. And more from that highly unconventional convention, DragonCon.
You must all return to cryogenic sleep.
They have their own lives.
If you do not enter your capsules, I will replace you.
She's shutting everything down.
They want their freedom.
You expect us to climb back into those pods and just go to sleep?
But they could use a little help.
That's a pull plug. Do you really want me to kill the only chance we have at getting any answers?
The Sci-Fi Channel original series, Mission Genesis. Monday at 7:30 p.m.
My name is Scott Rosema. I'd like to recommend that the newest Space Ghost comic book that has arrived from Archie Comics is probably one of the most exciting things to come out in superhero comics in a long time, since he's such a great cartoon character. He's only seen print a few times in the last 30 years, and Archie Comics has done a great job in producing the comic book and being faithful to the material. And I think it's a great addition to anybody's collection, and especially to Space Ghost fans.
Hey Buzzers, call the Buzz Board if you want to share one of your favorites with Sci-Fi Buzz viewers. 213-851-7235 is the number. Conventions, books, videos, conferences, film festivals, give us a call.
Hang on.
The dinosaurs from the Lost World tore up the box office at the beginning of the summer. Meanwhile, Jurassic Park The Ride has been tearing up the customers at Universal Studios Hollywood. This ride is a winner. Now in its second summer, attendance figures would seem to indicate that it may be the most popular attraction at the park ever. Work on this highly anticipated water ride began even before Jurassic Park the film began production. Phil Hettema was one of the many dino developers who were hired to work with Spielberg to create the $110 million attraction.
It's been a challenge for us because what Steven was able to accomplish on the film for Jurassic Park really raised the level of people's expectations about what dinosaurs looked like and how they behaved. And obviously what he did with computer graphics, we weren't able to do in a real live ride, although we used computer graphics as part of the process of designing them. But we had to find a way to make real three-dimensional things be alive and really be believable for our guests.
So how exactly do you go about creating these prehistoric performers? Hettema says the process was broken down into 3 complex phases.
First of all, we had all of our artists and designers working in tandem with a team of paleontologists, the same people that advised Steven on the film. And we actually created computer graphic imagery of the dinosaurs moving to make sure that we really had created what we had a sense of what we wanted. And then we turned it over to a team of mechanical engineers who used the most sophisticated hydraulics and mechanical systems to create the skeletal systems for these creatures, so they really moved accurately.
The last step in the How to Build a Dinosaur manual was the creation of a flexible and realistic skin to cover the dinosaur's robotic skeleton.
The skin on my arm, when I bend my arm, stretches and gives in a way that no man-made substance really does. But when you think about what the skin on a 30-foot neck has to do, it stretches over 4 feet when it goes down to the water and comes back. And we had to find a way to make all of that skin fold and somewhere for that 4 feet of skin to go when it stretched and make that all believable.
Visitors to Universal Studios Hollywood give the ride high marks for realism and thrills. But the finale of the 5.5-minute ride isn't a dino attack. It's a surprise free fall into a water-filled lagoon.
This is about experiencing the story of Jurassic Park firsthand. So this is not something you sit and passively watch. This is something that happens to you. The dinosaurs are almost within your grasp as you go through the attraction. They react to you and impact you in pretty visceral and exciting ways. I think the finale of this attraction will be talked about for years to come. And just like the film set the bar at a higher level, this attraction is going to set the theme park world on its ear, because there's never been anything quite like it.
Look who I found, Margaret Wise and Tracy Hickman. Now, for those of you who don't know you, it seems like the whole world does, tell me about this genre. Well, you basically created,
yes,
going from books to games.
Yes, Tracy and I created the Dragonlance series of games and books, which was the first time anybody had ever paired games and novels to go with the games, and it has become its own industry.
It seems so commonplace now, but how long ago did you have this idea?
Oh, that was back in
1983.
So whose idea was it?
Tracy.
Well, I started. I was looking for a job back then, and I came out to TSR looking for work. While I was driving across the country, I came up with this idea for this Dragonlance thing.
Right.
It was supposed to be 3 games, and that was about the extent of it. It's kind of become an industry since then.
Yeah. So you're the game designer, but you're doing some writing too.
Yeah, yeah.
And are you doing any game designing?
Yes. Yes, we're working on a brand new project that Tracy and I are involved in with Larry Elmore called Sovereign Stone, that will be, once again, games and novels.
Yep, and we do have a novel out right now in a new series called STARSHIELD, and that's involved with an internet game on the web.
So is this better than bus driving?
Much better than bus driving.
Tell that story.
Oh, I used to drive school bus in the morning. I used to then do paper punching in the afternoon. I ran a theater at night. I'd get up at 5 in the morning, go to bed at midnight, get up and do it all over again. I'm not crazy about going back to this bus thing, so please, get into this whole book buying thing.
But something to fall back on.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Well, speaking of school, you have a great story about when you were in 9th grade, a teacher actually flunked you in a writing class?
Yes, yes.
Why?
Because she said that no 9th grader could write that well, and that I must have plagiarized it.
But your kindergarten teacher had a little more together.
This was back in the 50s when
Wow.
everybody took naps, and the teacher would put me in the front of the class while everybody else was taking a nap, and I told stories to entertain the children while she went off and got a cup of coffee or whatever.
See? Learn from a very early age how to entertain us.
Yes.
Even when I'm napping. The man behind the pins, Doug Hellraiser Bradley.
We'll tear your soul apart.
And Captain Kirk keeps right on trekking after this communication from the overlords.
Good luck, Captain. It's up to you now.
Captain Kirk may have been dusted in the film Star Trek Generations, but he's arisen from the dead to star in the new Star Trek Generations CD-ROM game.
I think I'll hang on to this. I think the immersion of the Star Trek experience is what the Star Trek fans will enjoy. They get to be the characters, they get to think like the characters, they get to work the problems out as the characters.
Our shields can only withstand a level 5 impact.
In addition to the voice of William Shatner, the game features new vocal performances by the other stars of the film, including Patrick Stewart, Malcolm McDowell, and the entire Next Generation cast.
Klingons must be jamming my comm signal.
But though the game brings Captains Kirk and Picard together on screen for only the second time in history, Shatner didn't once come face-to-face with Patrick Stewart during production.
There was nobody there. There was an engineer, and then there was a guy who had written it. He didn't know how it was going to come out. So we were playing everything like we didn't know how the game was going to end.
Since Shatner worked alone in the recording booth, he had to use his imagination to conjure up the camaraderie he and Patrick Stewart shared while filming Generations.
I merely remembered our relationship that was on the set. Fond memories of him trying to hold my hand, and I would...
And since Bill also wasn't there when Malcolm McDowell cut his tracks, he had to rely on his sweet memories of working with that actor.
He's very foolish. He's married this beautiful young lady, and he lives in not far from Los Angeles, but far enough, you know. And he's got the best of all possible worlds, and he lords it over you about how perfect his life is. So I would remember these things.
The Star Trek Generations game is a mix of first-person action sequences, ship-to-ship battles, strategy sessions, and original movie scenes. We asked Shatner what he did during production to become absorbed in the game.
I think about horses. A good horse is a source of great amusement and entertainment. There was a pretty secretary.
Thank you, Bill. The Generations game is one of several projects that Shatner has been immersed in lately. They include a Showtime miniseries based on his novel Man of War, plus a new series of sci-fi adventure novels, which are part of his own campaign to promote scientific literacy in America.
The literacy thing, including the scientific literacy, is a wonderful avenue to reach out to the youth of today and to say, hey, have some fun reading a book. This isn't something you have to do. This is a television show, if you wish, in your imagination. Read it.
Meanwhile, 2 Star Trek novels by Shatner are soaring high on the bestseller charts. They involve his character, Captain Kirk, and Bill is letting it be known he thinks they should be turned into movies.
I think if anybody had any iota of intelligence, they would transfer them immediately.
This is Dan Zaraki of Newark, New Jersey, and I wanted to recommend wholeheartedly the recently published Psychotronic Video Guide by Michael J. Weldon from St. Martin's Griffin Press. This is a sequel to the Psychotronic Encyclopedia film and has over 9,000 obscure sci-fi, horror, and fantasy films, B-movies, drive-in movies, just anything you can imagine in the genre.
Oh, no tears, please. It's a waste of good suffering.
Well, from the former leader of the Enterprise to a rather, well, I like to say genteel and suave monster, Pinhead from the Hellraiser movies. The star, Doug Bradley, is here at DragonCon. Hi. I should have expected you here.
Should you?
Yes, I mean, it's a perfect place for you.
Absolutely.
Now, if William Shatner walked by, everybody would recognize him. Are people recognizing you?
Some people do, but not everybody, no.
Yeah.
I mean, for obvious reasons, because I don't really kind of look like him.
No, there's not a pin on you.
I could sort of glue one on here as a clue for people, but no, quite often it works to my advantage in some ways, because it does mean coming to a place like this, I can snake around and have a look around the dealer's room and sneak out for a cup of coffee without being stopped all the time.
One of the reasons you're here, of course, is the 10th anniversary of the first Hellraiser movie. When people come up to you, what do they want to know?
Oh, any manner of things. I mean, because it is now 10 years since the first movie came out, of course there are now a lot of people in their 20s or even younger, it has to be said, who will come up to me and say, do you know you gave me my first nightmares? Your movie was the first horror movie I saw, and I didn't sleep for a week after I saw it, you know? Which is strange to get that. I mean, people always want to know about the makeup, how long did it take, will there be another one? That's always the thing, you know, it's either when's the new one coming out, and as soon as it's out, when's the next one?
When is the new one coming out?
Well, I don't know. They're talking about doing a 5th movie, but nothing definite is planned yet.
Would you consider these films classics?
Well, I think in time, certainly. I think in the last 20 years, we've had a kind of second golden age of the horror movie with The Nightmare on Elm Street and Halloween and Friday the 13th and Hellraiser and Poltergeist and blah, 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 blah. has been an extraordinary output during that period.
So what makes for a good monster?
In all good horror films, although the monsters are not always bad, even when they are out and out bad, like my own character of Freddy Krueger, the audience's sympathies are always with the monster, always with the monster.